Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they were disappointed in the outcome, but Adam said, he goes, we're just going to do it again. He goes, I'll start tomorrow. So they're confident. They have the truth on their side.
Now, you got to like that. They're confident. A little bit of a pause there. Are they really confident? We're not so sure about that. But they may have to bring this case again. Like I said, they may be pressured to bring this case again, whether they want to or not, whether they're confident or not.
Unfortunately, if you pay high-powered attorneys enough and put enough lies out there, you start influencing people to the point where there's just no turning back. I think people just don't want to admit that they were wrong or duped. But they're confident, and we're going to go at it again.
So again, I mean, he's kind of calling everybody who doesn't believe it to be duped, that we're all duped. So it's not just some crazy people out there who have bought into some crazy conspiracy theory, and all these other attorneys who have come out and felt that this is the verdict should have been not guilty. We've all been duped. That's essentially what he's arguing here. Which again, it's. I'm not trying to poke fun at him. I'm not trying to it's a sad situation. He's been working with the Commonwealth. That's what the victims' families do. They work with the Commonwealth. They work with the prosecution. They completely trust the prosecution. This is what happens in 99% of the times. And they have a certain trust between them and the prosecution that they actually have the right person. And therefore, it's very difficult for them to be able to objectively now look at the evidence and look at the facts here and say, this does not equal a guilty, what should be a guilty verdict. It just doesn't equal that. So it's very hard for them to sit in that position. Therefore, they have to come up with other reasons why many other people out there, including attorneys and lawyers who have tried cases, feel that the verdict should be not guilty. It's very difficult for them. So I'm not trying to take anything. It's a sad situation. I think what we're seeing here is just sad. You feel bad.
He being Adam.
Okay, here's how I feel about this. Lawyers on YouTube. If you want to commentate on this case and sit through it like a juror, then I expect that you have high expectations of yourself. I expect that you should be taking notes. You should have been jotting down various times of cell phone pings and various things that have happened that locate people, GPS, the key cycles of the vehicle, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but 26 miles per hour in reverse for 60 feet. And after she ran into him, she still went for 20 more feet. I mean, there is so much overwhelming evidence, okay? So here's some criticism for you law tubers out there. Number one, if you want to watch the trial and grift off of this and make money off of this and even pretend to be unbiased, because most of you look very biased, okay, go for it. But when you have interviews like this from John O'Keefe's brother, keep your opinions to yourself. You're not in a courtroom. If you want to argue that the prosecution didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, we can have that conversation. You can have those conversations. But you have no business commenting on factual guilt. And if you want to comment on factual guilt, then you need to do all of the research that those of us that have been invested in this, along with these, and trust me, it will all be exposed. There is corruption, and it is on the side of the defense, and it will come out. And I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, this one, but I'm a nobody. I have a tiny channel that I just started because of 2 court cases that are driving me crazy. And I wasn't even into this one, really. I mean, I followed it very loosely until the trial started. And I went into day 1 of trial thinking that she was framed. By the end of day 1, after I watched opening statements, which, Lally, not a good opening statement. I had no idea what he was talking about. How am I supposed to remember 50 people? I have no idea who these people are. We need to get a better opening. I agree, lawyers. Absolutely. I agree that if you weren't taking notes and you don't know exact times of things and you didn't take those notes to know that the evidence literally could not have been planted, there was no time, then that's on you. because you're an intelligent person, I think. If you're a legal attorney who is commenting on legal cases, then you should have those facts. But clearly, you didn't write down notes. Clearly, you didn't pay attention to the Commonwealth's case, because Lally isn't a soap opera actor like Jackson. Lally is a prosecutor, and most of you attorneys out there have been a prosecutor, because most defense attorneys start out as prosecutors or public defenders or both. So you know both sides. The prosecutors that stay and make that their career often have personalities like Lally. 99.9% of the time, he has the facts on his side. And no, this case is not the 0.000001%. Okay, it's just not. And I will put visual aids up on my channel, and hopefully it'll get out there so that you can actually see what the actual facts are. But all of this Fed crap, the Feds have been done forever. The only thing the Feds found were Proctor's text messages. And don't even get me started on that. I'll do a different rant on that at a later point. That man has been villainized because he was venting on his personal phone. Okay, I'm going to say just a couple sentences, I have to his wife and his best friends. And yes, some of which are his coworkers. Are some of your coworkers some of your best friends? If we took your phone at any given time, would there maybe be some embarrassing things on there? If you were pissed off at somebody, or if somebody had just killed your wife or husband, do you think you might have some few choice words about somebody that murdered them? And we'll get into how I know that this is fact, okay? Because it blows my mind that people haven't taken the time to stop and look at both sides. When I first went into this, if you're listening to this, please go listen to my first audio recording on this case, because it was the night of closing arguments. And I literally went both sides. I literally said, look, you can, this is so easy to see from both sides. It's crazy. But you got to be open-minded, and you have to be critical thinkers, and you also have to use common sense. And there's a difference between reasonable doubt and irrational doubt. If you want to poke a little hole here and you want to, say, well, she said 12:30 and she said 12:45. These people have been at the bar drinking all night. They're at their friend's house after they've been at the bar, and they're just chilling. They're not sitting there taking notes on what time everybody left. And they're not drawing diagrams of where everybody parked. Okay? And the reason Carrie Reed wasn't cross-examined, Brother Counsel, is because the defense did not want to give her any more airtime. They did not want her to have any extra time. And you asked the question, so I'm going to answer it for you. They did that because Jen McCabe is one of the number one victims on the defense's team, okay? They have accused her of being part of this murder cover-up, and then going home to her two daughters and talking to her basketball coach and looking up basketball and just Googling I wonder how long it'll take my good friend John to die outside in the cold while I'm in bed with my husband and my two little girls are sleeping next door to me. Okay, she has been villainized. So, one of the reasons they didn't want to give her any more airtime is because Carrie Roberts went in right after Jen and corroborated everything that Jen said. Carrie and Jen were not friends. Carrie and Jen literally met that morning when Karen went to go get her next victims, who were Carrie and Jen. Okay? That's when they met. So, they weren't friends. They had no ties. Carrie had been friends with John since high school and his family. So, she sure as shit isn't going to... She has no allegiances to the McCabes or the Alberts. And she sure as shit is not going to cover up one of her best friend's murder if she legitimately saw the facts fall that way. She didn't, okay? And between his family, Paul, parents, sisters, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, best friends, from a legal standpoint, if you're going to talk legalities, stop talking about their personal messages. We're not in a courtroom, okay? And like I said, I will go and I will have a visual aid if anybody's interested, and I will debate any of you. I'm not a lawyer, and I can have civil conversations. I'm a very well-educated woman. I have 3 degrees, and I'm probably going to get 4 or 5 more. So I know my stuff. I know my crime. I know legal, the way things work, okay? I invest a lot of time in this stuff. In fact, I've even thought about going into some type of career like that. But my point is here that the facts are with the Commonwealth, and unless, this is my thing, unless you lawyers are going to strictly talk about law, stop talking about it. And if you want to talk about their personal reactions and why they think that Karen Read is absolutely factually 100% beyond a reasonable doubt, and yes, they know that to be a fact, guilty, then you need to go and invest the time and look into the actual evidence and everything that's been laid out in pretrial motions. Look at who wanted the FBI stuff hidden. The defense made a motion to keep that hidden. They wanted to be able to, make it known before court because they can lie to the public. They can't come into the courtroom and lie. So that's this whole innocence fraud bullshit, which I'll get more into later too. But for purposes of this, I just want to say, those of us that have taken hundreds of hours of our lives and invested ourselves into this case, and our hearts bleed for this family because we know Karen Read is guilty and we have the facts on our side, then stop commenting like you know the case. The whole case wasn't presented in trial because of rules of evidence. And all you lawyer people out there know that. Number 1. Number 2, if you didn't watch every second and take notes and pay attention to the times people were at places, the GPS data, the tech data that they have is absolutely rock solid against her. And she left her first voicemail on John's phone 3 minutes after she left. 2 or 3 minutes after she left. And she's already accusing him of cheating on her? Like what? Does she think he went into the Albert's house, dropped his pants, and started boning the first person he saw? No. She knew what she did. And that was her beginning of her alibi. And I will get into more of that later. But why would she call him 3 minutes after she left and accuse him of cheating on her? She just left. I mean, come on. You need to look to the family. You think that this family hasn't, and for you to sit there and accuse Paul of just being on the side of the Commonwealth because they trust the Commonwealth. You think that Paul hasn't dug into every single piece of evidence and watched and looked and seen every piece of evidence that they have? Would you, if your brother or sister or wife or daughter or son was murdered, would you be like, okay, well, I trust you guys. Let me know when the trial is. See you later. No, you wouldn't. That's not rational. And that's not reasonable. So all this little bullshit spaghetti that you want to call reasonable doubt is not reasonable doubt. It's just stupid shit. Some of it's really stupid shit. Some of it, okay, you can poke a few holes because the prosecution didn't button that up and had an inexperienced crash person testify. I mean, the poor man, you're making more victims. Okay, they will get a better one. I hope to God they do. They need one. They need a medical examiner that doesn't buy into this bigotry, because I guarantee you that It sure seemed like that to me. I could have asked her if a horse ran over this man, if that would have caused his injuries, and she would have said, yeah. She would have said, they could have. They could have. But because Karen Reed wanted to throw around this misogyny bullshit, why don't you take a look at her text messages? I don't know why those weren't introduced. Something probably to do with rules of evidence, but they're out there. If you want to take a look at them. If y'all want the actual truth, I will be bringing it to you on this channel. But I will also recommend that you don't just trust me. Go verify. Do your own research. All of this information is out there for you to find. But if you are not actually seeking the truth, and you just want to... There is corruption, people, so if you want to jump on that train, that's fine, but this is not the case. A man died. His niece and nephew already lost both of their parents and now lost their third parental figure. This is not the case. This woman belongs in prison. And again, more to come on that. But I want you law tubers, if you're going to talk about law and you're going to say they didn't prove it to me, because I'm not going to sit here and take notes, and I'm not going to do my due diligence like a juror, but I'm going to sit here and listen. And because Lally isn't very dramatic and doesn't sit and yell shit in the court like, oh, so you called her a cunt? You told her you were going to fuck her up? You told her jump on it? I mean, like, he's not like that. You remember that because it's dramatic. Lally's personality is not like that. If you're going to be fair, you have to take that into account. If you are a truth seeker and a fact finder, and you're going to sit there as a juror, then you need to act as if you are a juror completely. Or stop pretending like you're acting like a juror and just like, well, whatever. The only people that you guys want to hold on to are these experts. And let me tell you what, they were paid by the defense. They were not paid by the defense to make the report, but you bet your ass they were paid by the defense to come and testify, to come and, you know, the travel expenses, their testimony time, all that shit, they're paid, okay? That's number one. Number two, Wolf's wife, FKR. You think he wasn't biased? Listen, all of you lawyers, see, and this is so annoying to me because I know you know this, because I'm not even a lawyer, but I have watched so much of this, trials in my life and courtroom procedural things in my life and crime investigations in my life, that if I know this stuff, you know this stuff. And you know that experts don't sit up there, and especially scientists, don't sit up there and say, no, that absolutely could not have happened. No. That expert was clearly biased. He was sitting there. So, did you know that there was no dog DNA found on the man? No. Did you know that there were tail fragments found in John's sweatshirt, in his clothes? 16th by 16th of an inch fragments all over in his clothes. Did you know that? No. Did you know that his shoe was found frozen 3 feet under the snow? No. And that wouldn't have changed my mind anyway. Okay. Watch that testimony again. That is not testimony from an expert. That is not unbiased testimony, because you cannot tell me that those things would not play a factor if you had all of the facts. Those experts were given only exculpatory evidence. That is it. They were not given any of the inculpatory evidence, and it is obvious. And it goes deep. This is politics. And it is going to be called out, because I'm not staying silent, and I don't think that I'm going to be the only one screaming from the rooftop, because this is corruption. But it's coming from the other direction, and it's coming from deep pockets. Okay? So stop saying that the O'Keefes or anybody that loved John O'Keefe knows Joe O'Keefe. I don't even know him, and I have cried my eyes out watching some of this testimony and listening to these people. I have so much that I could say about Karen with that, and I'll get into all that. But again, I want to keep this a little bit short. It's ridiculous. She's smirking. I don't give a shit if she's smirking at the man on the moon. Stop making excuses for her. Paul O'Keefe knows, and she took pleasure in causing all of this pain. And if you don't believe me, believe her face. And look, I have physical illnesses too, okay? And you don't have weird smirky smirks because of physical illnesses. That is her vitriolic hatred and psychopathic narcissistic behavior. Unless you're going to look at everything, and unless you're going to be an actual fact finder and a truth finder, stop commenting on shit like this, please. If you want to do your commentary on, well, beyond a reasonable doubt, well, that causes doubt. Okay, fine. Do that. But don't sit there and say that the O'Keefe family and his friends and family that love him didn't do their own homework. There are reasons why they knew that she did this right away. And the evidence kept building. It was a slow burn. Imagine realizing that somebody that one of your best friends or your brother or sister's girlfriend, boyfriend, imagine if they were out. My first comment would not, if I went and dropped my husband off, would not be, oh my God, did I hit him? Oh my God, is he dead? Calls Carrie at 5 o'clock in the morning, says, John's dead, and hangs up. How would she know that? She dropped him off at the house. How would Karen know that? This testimony alone. I mean, if your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend ended up, you went and dropped him off at your buddy's house to party and you were going to go home because you didn't feel well and he didn't end up coming home, would you maybe, try and call other people? Maybe if you are starting to get worried, call the hospitals, call 911, do a welfare check. I mean, there's any number of things you could have done. But no, she calls her daddy. She calls Carrie and says John is dead. She starts driving around, and it can't be proven beyond a... Well, I think it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but it can't be proven, with actual, here's the footage of her actually going there and seeing him lay in the yard. But she drove by there. We all know it. And then she went to Jen's and started freaking out. And the show really began. Her plan was in action from the night before. Leave the O'Keefe family alone. They have been so graceful. I can't tell you how much restraint that would have taken for me. Oh my gosh. If somebody hurt my brother, I've had situations where his heart's been hurt. And my dad was scared to tell me because he didn't want me to drive 4 hours to this bitch's house. And yes, I am a woman, and women can be bitches. And somebody that kills my brother damn well is a cunt. Okay? So if you don't like that language, you need to grow up. Human beings need to vent. You are getting rid of good officers because they have to vent. The man was working overtime. Barely got home to see his wife and kids. And he's going through her phone and realizes, oh shit, there's some lawyer stuff on here, and immediately stops. That should tell you something. Okay, but everybody wants to make Proctor this vile creature. We are talking about a murder, and you want to talk about misogynistic language? Get over yourself. Put your big girl panties on and your big boy panties on and fucking look at the facts of the case. He could have called her everything from cunt to bitch to twat face to whatever you want to say. Penis breath. Bring it on. Keep them coming. That has nothing to do with the facts of the case. It has nothing to do with whether or not Karen murdered John O'Keefe. And she had plenty of time. She had 6 hours to get that man help. Again, I'll go into more of that later. But my point is, this family has been nothing but graceful. They could have came out 2 years ago and started telling the world all this, and we would be in a different place, because Turtle Boy and his vitriol would never have been able to spun this web, and I wish they would have. And people need to be aware of these innocence fraud campaigns so that they don't start corroding our justice system. Because if people get away with this shit, they're going to do it all the time. And you guys want to have murderers for next door neighbors? You want your children to be taught by murderers? Psychopathic murderers? Is that what you want? Because that's what you're doing. You're bringing your children to these events, drinking and lollapaloozing out like it's fucking the 70s hippie fest out in front of the courthouse. That's fine if you want to protest, but let's not make it a keg party. And let's not make Karen a hero, because she's not. And those of you that actually want the truth, I will bring you the truth. I will show you the facts. So just stay tuned. Do your own research, because it's out there. I found it, which is how I'm going to be able to bring it to you. Don't sit and listen in echo chambers, because I can clearly understand how you could come down on that side. But that's where common sense has to come in, and you have to start saying, wait a minute. Connecting all these dots, all roads lead to her. I get the defense doesn't have to prove anything, but they put themselves in the position that they were going to, and they did not. Again, I get that they don't have to, but the only explanation is that Karen Reed did this. That's it. That's all there is to it. So, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it to yourself. Let's use the golden rule. Stop treating human beings like they're evil. Let the system take care of the ones that they're going to take care of, because there will be charges coming down, and not on the side that you think. There will be charges coming down to the people involved in this corruption. And I hope that people stand up for what is right. I hope that people use their minds and critically think. And I hope that people can take a step back, take a deep breath. I challenge you to go listen to somebody that you wouldn't normally listen to that is on the opposite side. Because you know what? Those of us that believe she's guilty will have conversations with anybody. I'll have a respectful conversation with anybody. But if I ask you a question, I expect you to answer with an answer and not a question. And when you ask me a question, I will answer your question. And I will be honest. And if I say, Lally didn't do a great job of pointing this or that out, because he didn't. And here's the thing, Lally needs more passion. And I don't know if he's going to be able to muster it up. I hope he's got help this next round, because that man did so much work and deserves so much praise. And let me just say this to end this one, is that I stand with Lally. I stand with Michael Proctor. I stand with Michael Proctor's wife. Good for you. Way to stand by your man. I'm sure it has not been easy for either of you. I stand with the O'Keefe family. I stand with the Proctors and the McCabes. I stand with everybody that's been victimized by this cruel, heinous innocence fraud campaign. You want to make an innocence fraud campaign? We can talk about that later and how we can stop those. But you know what? For now, go ahead and do it. But don't make other victims out of completely innocent people and ruin their lives. Michael Proctor's career is now ruined because he was pissed off, overworked, trying to solve a murder, and called this cunt a cunt. on his personal phone. And the only reason that they got to introduce that is because of the corruption involved on the Karen Read side, including her attorneys and including the state attorneys, past and present, and other people. I don't think the FBI was dirty. I don't think that they knew. But I think once they figured out that it was a bunch of bullshit, they just fucking left. So all of you that are saying the FBI is going to come in and change the next outcome, I have said this till I'm blue in the face. And you're not going to believe me until it happens. And then on the Karen Read side, it seems to be that even when things are proven, you still don't believe them. And when they're disproven, you still don't believe that they're disproven. So, I mean, it's over. The investigation has been over. And the worst thing that they found was Proctor's text messages. And that's how they got his text messages, was from the federal investigation. So if there was more to find, do you honestly think that that team wouldn't have exposed that? Of course they would have. There's no evidence of any untoward anything except some pissed off police officers being overworked and calling a cunt. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But that does not mean that this cunt should get off a murder. Nor should you be exposing your children or your grandchildren or anybody that you love to that. Go look for Karen Read's text messages. Once again, they're out there. To Turtle Boy, to Olivia, to whoever else. And yes, Alan Jackson and Yannetti are involved, and there are personal contacts that have been found also. So hopefully we'll see some charges brought there too, and some ethics charges especially towards Alan Jackson. I mean, come on, dude. I hope your wife divorces you. You are no role model to your children, and I feel really badly for your wife because you're disgusting. The people you represent are disgusting, and the way that you act with female clients is also disgusting. And you should be ashamed of yourself. But you're going to throw around actions have consequences to somebody who's completely innocent. You're going to say that shit. Other than saying some few choice words about your client who deserved all of them and more. Well, I hope that we see action. I hope that we all get to witness the consequences from your actions, because it's disgusting. More to come, folks. Spread love and light. Be nice. I am passionate, so when I bring you this information, I may sound one-sided or something. I don't mean to be. Like I said, if you want to have a conversation with me, I am open to it. I have tried to go on panels that are totally on the pink side, and they won't let me talk. They lock me out of the chat rooms, and I'm not disrespectful. So I mean, it's clear that they don't want to be challenged. So if any of you creators out there that honestly believe in Karen Read's innocence, go ahead and prove it and invite some of us on your show. I know Kevin's invited you too before, and none of you showed up. So I'm somebody that you have no history with. You don't know me, I don't know you. So if you want to actually present a case to me, I'll listen. I'm not nearly as invested in this one as I am in the Kohberger one as far as like my emotional involvement, because I truly believe that Kohberger is innocent, and I think there's a ton of corruption in Idaho. And I think it's really fucking obvious, actually. So that's where my bulk of my energy has been in the last 18 months. But I really started digging into this one once the trial started, because Kohberger is at a standstill. So there's nothing more I can do until something happens in the court. But anyway, so I definitely believe in police corruption. I know that it exists. I am not one-sided. I am a very open-minded person. So challenge me. Don't even make it, if you do, whatever is your fancy. I'm an athlete, so I think like that. I'm always challenging myself, but I mean, I will have respectful conversations with you, but I expect you to be able to back up your arguments with facts and not just disinformation from a really, really disreputable person. If you guys don't know who Turtle Boy is, go watch his podcasts for 5 minutes. He calls Jennifer McCabe's daughters cunts like 15 times in a row. It's disgusting. At the time they were in high school. Colin McCabe was in high school. Colin McCabe left his college and his athletic scholarship because Turtle Boy intimidated him, and he didn't want his team to suffer the consequences of Turtle Boy because he saw what he already did. He has caused so much more heartache. He was calling Mom and Dad O'Keefe murderers on air, on his podcast, standing out there with all the pink shirts. They weren't wearing pink at the time, but all the folks on that side that were, probably started out, I know a lot of y'all are getting paid, and you know who you are. And I will be calling you all out. Some of you, I don't know. Maybe you just don't want to find the truth. I don't know. But it's really disheartening to me that all of this is happening. There should be so much support for the O'Keefe family. And where are they? When they voice their opinion, they just, get called all sorts of names. It's disgusting. John O'Keefe was an honorable, lovely man from everybody's account. I have not heard one person say a negative thing about him except Karen Reed, which should tell you something. Okay? So where's all the support for him? And don't tell me that locking Karen up isn't justice for John because she's innocent. That's bullshit. You've been fed a bunch of bullshit. And trust me, again, I get it because I think the same thing in Idaho. My heart bleeds for those families because I don't foresee them getting justice. I think there's so much corruption that the people that are actually responsible for that may never see charges. I don't know. And it sucks. And locking Brian up and killing him is not an answer. It's not going to bring justice. But the thing is that when the right person is put away, families can begin to heal. They're never going to be the same. They're never going to get over it. They're never going to find closure. But until all of the legal bullshit is over, they're stuck in time and they can't begin to heal. That's why this needs to come to a close. And y'all need to start thinking with your head and using your common sense. And stop giving your money to these people. Do your research. There are plenty of victims out there that actually need your support and could use some money. Karen Reed is not one of them. And quite frankly, even if she were factually innocent, her family has enough money. Why don't you go and look up some cases of women that are indigenous or poverty or men that are in... What about Brian Koberger? He could use your help. Why don't you look into that case? Because you're making money off of the back of the O'Keefe tragedy. And you need to knock it off. It's disgusting. Look in the mirror. Is that who you want to be? I'm just asking the question. If that's who you want to be, that's your prerogative. But I truly hope that Americans stand up for what's right, and it is time. Justice for John O'Keefe. Justice for Karen Reed. Both of those mean that Karen Reed goes to prison and pays the consequences for her actions and hers alone. I'll be coming at you more later.